All right, the NFL regular season is officially over. Just 14 teams remaining with dreams and aspirations of hoisting that Lombardi trophy. I'm going to go through, give you my final power rankings of the year as we head into the postseason, ranking all 32 teams 1 through 32. Remember, these are the power rankings, not the standings, but let's hop on into it. Let's just knock out all our non-playoff participants. Okay, at the bottom, the New England Patriots, they don't even know how to tank right. Tennessee at 31, they hold the number 1 overall pick in the draft. Should be a promising offseason for them. Cleveland at 30, do the Browns draft a quarterback at the top of this draft? They're going to have the pick to do it. Will they do it? Giants at 29, keeping Brian Dable, I think, helps. Jacksonville fired Doug Peterson, so new head coach is going to have to figure out what to do with Trevor Lawrence. Saints already on the new head coaching hunt, and they are in complete cap hell. Vegas at 26, firing Antonio Pierce after just one season. Tom Brady is going to pick the new head coach for this team, it sounds like. Chicago ends the season on a high note, beating Green Bay, so maybe the Bears got some momentum heading into 2025, but the head coach search already seems like it's off to a rocky start. The Jets at 24, what a disastrous season for them. Aaron Rodgers probably done. We got a 17-year-old running the team. Carolina at 23, a positive finish and maybe a spunky team potentially in the NFC South next year. Bryce Young looks like he is back having fun playing football, and 5 tutties to finish the regular season and an overtime victory. Dallas at 22, Mike McCarthy potentially going to be back as the head coach. We're not quite sure. San Francisco at 21. Overall, the Niners just a season from hell. Atlanta at 20, moving on from Kirk Cousins. Looks like it's going to be the move. Michael Penix showed some shine here, but only 3 starts at the end of this regular season. Really not a fair trial for him. Indianapolis at 19. They're bringing back Ballard. They're bringing back Steichen. Colts fans are pissed. Miami at 18. Tyreek Hill wants to get out of there already. What a disastrous season for them. Arizona at 17. Positive trending to them, but I think they need to move on from quarterback Kyler Murray. Not going to get them where they need to go. Seattle at 16. They fire offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb. I'll be interested to see which direction they go. They probably need a quarterback to replace Geno Smith. Sam Howell's not that guy. Cincinnati at 15. Unfortunately, the Bengals don't make the playoffs. Big offseason here. They fired defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo. Are they going to make some real defensive changes? Are they going to be able to re-sign T. Higgins, get Jamar Chase that extension? A ton of question marks for the Bengals, and another wasted season in the prime of this team's quarterback's career. But let's get what you came here for. My 14 remaining teams, the top 14 now, heading into the postseason, starting off with a team that was starting good, but has fallen off mightily recently. But can they manage to get a home playoff win? Okay, at 14, I got the Houston Texans here. The Texans have fallen off mightily this season. They had a really good stretch here. I think they were 6-2 in the middle of this year, but you lose wide receiver Stephon Diggs, you lose Tank Dell, Nico Collins missed a big chunk of the year, and this offensive line has just been a disaster for CJ Stroud. We've seen him regress a little bit, but the funny thing is, if you dig into the numbers last year, he's throwing about the same rate of interception-worthy plays. He just didn't get the interceptions last year, so potentially had a lot of luck in that rookie season's regressing back to the mean. Pair that with a poor offensive line, limited wide receiver help out there, and a run game that's been very inconsistent. They're not able to run the ball consistently like they were early in the season. Joe Mixon came out of the gates firing when he was healthy. I know he missed some early games in this season. The defense is okay. They have a good pass rush. They have a good corner, but they give up a ton of big plays. They give up a lot of yards, but there is some hope for this Texans team. They are hosting the Chargers in the first round of the playoffs, so if they can manage to get a home win, squeak it out, get the divisional round, all around a successful season. What felt like was a major letdown. You know, Texan fans maybe thought they had a real chance to push for an AFC title this year. Probably still a little bit away, but they got some work to do in Houston. Maybe it was a little bit of fool's gold in year one under head coach D'Amico Ryans. Okay, I got the Broncos here at 13. If you told a Broncos fan you would win 10 games this year and make the playoffs, they would have been ecstatic. They would assume Bo Nix lit it up. He had a great year, and Bo Nix was really solid. Now, he does still have some of those rookie tendencies, probably has 1 or 2 throws a game that are just a horrendous interception and read, but he really hasn't been helped by much of a run game this season. They have not been able to run the football offensively, but Jaleel McLaughlin's starting to come on a little bit, so going from no run game to like We could potentially pick up some yards here running the football is a huge plus to them. Obviously, Cortland Sutton, still a dog wide receiver. One of those underrated guys that I don't think gets enough love. You just have to watch him week in and week out. See how good he is. And this defense was massively improved this season from last year's unit that gave up 70 points in a game. Run defense has been stout, and they're going to have probably the defensive player of the year in Patrick Surtain Jr. in the secondary, but the rest of that secondary is a little bit suspect. They have had some injuries there, rotating guys in and out. I'm not going to do a whole lot of weight into beating the third string Chiefs 38-0. Like, yeah, Carson Wentz is bad. We know that. So the Broncos did kind of back into the playoffs, lost a couple of games that were kind of must-win spots for them. Plus, now they have a really tough draw against Buffalo in the first round. Probably one and done for the Broncos, but I think most Broncos fans, if not all Broncos fans, deep down are just ecstatic with this season, no matter what the result is this weekend. First year playoffs with Sean Payton and rookie quarterback Bo Nix. You really can't ask for much more. I think Denver needs to add another playmaker on this team, get more consistency in the run game, and probably one more corner. And the Broncos could potentially be back to being a real threat in the AFC West to that Chiefs dynasty. Okay, at number 12, I got the Pittsburgh Steelers here. This team has really fallen off a cliff. Look, we knew their schedule was absolutely brutal at the end of the regular season, and they had to rack up wins early. But this team was 10-3, has now lost 4 in a row to probably, 3 of the top 5 teams in this league. And then the Bengals in the last week of the season. The offense has been the real issue. George Pickens has been injured. He comes back. He's been a non-factor. He can't catch the ball. He was a complete head case against Cincinnati. Now, we did see improvement on the defensive side of the ball. The Bengals have an elite and potent offense, and they were able to really stymie them for most of the game. I thought that was the biggest positive sign for Pittsburgh in the last week of the season, that the defense was getting a little bit back to what we saw, but they're just still not quite as sharp as they were. Injuries along season, the grind and the monotony, and the offense just hasn't been anywhere near as good. They can't run the ball as effectively as they were. The passing game is non-existent. Russell Wilson looks like a little bit more like the guy we thought he was going to look like, just not great all around. Now, he does still make some plays. He has taken off a little bit more, picked up some big first downs, but just not quite as sharp as where he was in the middle of the year. That's what happens, though. You can lose the big, deep passing game when the weather gets bad, especially in the AFC North. Things get ugly out there, and it's just not suited for this team all around. They did make the playoffs, but Tomlin hasn't won a playoff game since 2016. They are really up against it this week, but I do give them a shot. It is a division matchup against the Baltimore Ravens. This is a defense that could step up and just straight up win this game for them, but I really, really need to see more from this offense if Pittsburgh wants to make any sort of run and not just be another one-and-done Steelers for this year. So give me Pittsburgh here at 12. Okay, I got the Chargers here at 11. Strong finish to the season for them. They get the 5 seed in the AFC, and that's the most coveted wild card spot I think you could have possibly wanted. You have a good matchup on the road at the Houston Texans, who, like I said, have been sliding as of recently this year. And you know what? If they win and the Bills and Ravens win, they're going to Kansas City, and that's not an easy matchup for the Chiefs. The Chargers played the Chiefs twice already this year, and they played them tight both games, so could be a potential run here for the Chargers. Just an immaculate job by Jim Harbaugh, potentially your coach of the year, turning this Chargers team around, getting them to stop being the Chargers of old that would lose every close game, just, piss down their leg when there was a big situation, to a team that's greedy, grindy, plays fantastic defense, can run the football, and we've seen the last few weeks letting Justin Herbert sling the rock. They know they have to let Herbert win some of these playoff games if they want to make any sort of run into the postseason. We're seeing Quentin Johnson start to catch the ball more consistently. Obviously, rookie Ladd McConkey had a great year for them, but getting Herbert activated, making him have to make plays, which I think Herbert can do. I think Herbert's one of the best quarterbacks in this league. And then J.K. Dobbins back in the run game, a very strong running back that really just kind of transforms it. They added Zeke Elliott on the practice squad. I'm just kidding. That doesn't do anything for them. But you play great defense. You keep teams out of the end zone, hold them to field goals. You can run the ball, maintain possession, and your big-time quarterback can make big-time plays in critical situations. I do wish they had one more weapon out there besides the guys that they had. They have, a second-year guy who drops the football, a rookie wide receiver, and then they got Palmer, who's like solid, but there's no real tight end play either. I think this team is like one weapon away on offense and maybe one more defensive player to just being a serious juggernaut in the AFC. We're probably a year away from the Chargers to the AFC Championship game, but I would not be surprised here if they get a first-round win and then cause some noise in Kansas City. LA here at number 11. Okay, at number 10, I got the Green Bay Packers. The really not great way to end the regular season for the Packers. 2 straight losses against 2 divisional opponents, and they kind of got out-physicaled in both games. Now, they were resting some guys against Chicago. Jordan Love gets banged up. He does not come back into the game. Probably could have if it was a must-win situation. But once Malik Willis is in and he's out, there just really wasn't much offense going. Josh Jacobs couldn't really get anything going on the ground. This offensive line and defensive line have been kind of dominated the last 2 weeks physically, and that's a concern for Green Bay. It's going to be physical, grindy football into the postseason, especially going into Philadelphia week 1. They lose Christian Watson to an ACL tear. Sucks, but my guy is made of glass. There's no consistency at the wide receiver position on this team, and there's no true number 1 wide receiver. They desperately need a guy out there. They have a lot of good wide receivers who are like 1B, 1C, maybe a 2 on this team, but there's no dog on this team, and it's really shown, and maybe we oversold Jordan Love's like emergence as that top tier quarterback coming into the league. Like maybe they crowned him a little bit too soon. He kind of regressed a little bit. Now he was dealing with injuries this year. It wasn't the perfect season for him. And the defense just kind of, they force turnovers and make big plays, but they have been giving up yards. They have been giving up scores. So I think Green Bay is heading the wrong direction, but would I be surprised if Green Bay turns it around, figures it out, goes on a run, gets a couple of upsets, and finds themselves in the NFC Championship game? Maybe a little, but I wouldn't be floored. This would be the least surprising 7 seed to go on a conference championship run, I think, especially in the new format. But give me the Packers here at 10. A little bit of a down year, but overall, I think kind of successful. All right, at 9, I got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Look, the Buccaneers were win and get in. They didn't play perfect down the stretch. They lose the game to Dallas, potentially knock them out, but Atlanta lets the door open. They get back in. That's now 4 straight division titles for the Buccaneers, like in a division that never had repeat winners. Buccaneers seem to have staken their claim. And it wasn't pretty. It was ugly against New Orleans. They got in there, but the second half against Tampa Bay is kind of the best Tampa Bay you want to see. Baker Mayfield under duress, feeling the heat. He goes out there and slings the damn rock. He goes and makes plays. Mike Evans gets over 1,000 yards. Buggy Irving, one of the most underrated running backs in the league, probably a top 5 back. Maybe not quite yet, but definitely top 10. He's been excellent this year, and potentially some massive reinforcements on the way. Couple of guys in the secondary looking to get back, and potentially Chris Godwin. If this team can survive this round, now they are hosting Washington, a favorable matchup, I think. Should be a close, good game. If they can get through this game, get their weapons back on the offense, you pair Chris Godwin. We've seen McMillan come on strong, the rookie out of Washington towards the end of the season. Obviously, Mike Evans is consistent as it gets. This is a very dangerous team. And let's not forget what the Buccaneers did last year. Housed the Eagles at home, then went to Detroit and pushed the Lions to the brink, man. That game was really close, came down to the final drive of the game. I think Tampa Bay has a real shot to make some noise in the NFC playoffs. Now, their defense is a concern. The secondary is pretty awful. Like I said, they are getting a couple of reinforcements back potentially this week, but they're still not great overall. It's a stout front, though. It's really tough to run the football against them. You're going to have to beat them in a shootout, and that's going to be tough. Tampa Bay can control the clock with the running game, then get big plays out of their wide receivers when need be, converting long third downs. And then the defense makes you have to throw the football. So really tough matchup for a lot of teams in the NFC. I like Tampa Bay as a dark horse potentially, but if they go one and done, I also wouldn't be crazily surprised. We saw the bad parts of Tampa Bay as well in Week 18. So a very interesting Buccaneers team heading into the playoffs. Put them here at number 9. Okay, I got the Rams here at number 8. The Rams fully tank and rest Week 18, and they get exactly what they wanted, I think. Bringing on Minnesota, the loser of the Lions-Vikings showdown for the 1 seed. And the big thing is here, they are hosting. They had a week off last week at home, and now they're hosting this week. Now, there is some question where this game is going to be played with the awful fires going on in Los Angeles. Is this game still going to be played on Monday in LA? Potentially, but there's a real shot it could get moved to Arizona or Las Vegas, which is a real detriment to the Rams. Not the best home crowd in the world, but still, you want to be at home. You want to be comfortable. These players are probably dealing with a lot this week, but this is the team that really nobody wants to play. We're going off of legacy here when you have a Hall of Fame type quarterback in Matt Stafford, the Hall of Fame quarterback, and then you got a Hall of Fame potential head coach in Sean McVay, the wonderkin over there. And you pair that with the elite offensive weapons, Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams. Now, Cooper Kupp's been nowhere to be found the last month or so of the season. The offense has kind of struggled since that Buffalo game. I think they just really needed the rest. These are old bodies. I expect them to come out high flying and be a real problem in the NFC playoffs. Now, obviously, tough matchup against Minnesota, but if they can get through that, then going to Detroit, why not? Matt Stafford doing it again. Now, they've lost twice there in the last 2 years, but both games have been really, really tight. So this is kind of a scary Rams team. The defense is really young. They're great up front. They can get after the quarterbacks. Secondary forces turnovers too. They can get beat, give up some yards, give up some points, but maybe this defense is just either A, too young to really make a run here, or young enough to not know what they don't know and go out there and make massive plays for them. So this is a very scary Rams team. Could be an NFC Championship game run. Could be one and done for them in LA. So the Rams here at 8, a very interesting team to keep your eye on. Okay, at 7, I got the Washington Commanders. What a fantastic season for the Washington faithful. You get rid of owner Dan Snyder, you bring in new head coach Dan Quinn, you draft Jane Daniels, and you make the playoffs in year 1. Not just make the playoffs, you'll win 12 games. It sucks that you're only the 6th seed because of that 12 win. Usually that'll get you at least the 5 seed, if not a home playoff game and a division. But alas, great year 1 for this new Commanders regime. And this is an interesting matchup. Tampa Bay is a team that's not going to let Washington run the football, but there really hasn't been any sort of consistent run game out of Washington the last 3 or 4 weeks, which is what they kind of leaned on. But Jane Daniels has developed fantastically as a NFL quarterback in his rookie year. He throws the ball great. He's super accurate. He takes his deep shots, and he's added the running to the mix, which is what he's needed. He was kind of all or nothing earlier in the season. It was all run or no pass, or all pass and no run. And now he's kind of found that perfect little combination where to pick up those critical third downs, taking off with his legs, because he's one of the best athletes out there, and he knows how to move against those defenses. Pair that with the defense in Washington that is a lot better than I think we all thought they were going to be. I mean, this was going to be one of the worst defenses in football. They're not great, but they're average, and average is good enough in your first year. So I could see Washington picking up an upset here in round 1, but it is tough. You're going on the road for a playoff game. Never easy in that sort of matchup. So great season overall for Washington. I think they're not a serious threat to make a run in the NFC playoffs with the veteran teams we're going to see, but a ton of positive signs for this Commanders team heading into 2025. Great job in Washington. Okay, I got the Vikings here at number 6, and Sunday night was kind of a bad sign for them, but not a complete disaster. Guys were wide open. The guys were schemed open. Their receivers were open. The problem was Sam Darnold could not hit anybody. He was absolutely horrendous. Now, I'm glad he was horrendous in the last game of the regular season and in the first week of the playoffs. But this is the big question mark. If Sam isn't able to hit these layup throws, the Vikings are done, and Sam Darnold's going to cost himself a ton of money. I thought the defense did a really good job against Detroit. They really stymied this offense for about 3 quarters, really made them struggle. Forced a couple of turnovers, got after Jared Goff. But the weakness of Minnesota is clearly A, Sam Darnold with the nerves in the crunch time, and the offensive line. The offensive line is not very good. You're missing your all-pro left tackle and Christian Darrisaw. Now, Cam Robinson has stepped in and been okay, but really the upfront interior is not good, and the play calling in the red zone is a disaster. Don't run the football at all, even though they're chunking out 4 yards a carry against Detroit. You get Aaron Jones in. He didn't really have a lot of touches last week. This is a huge game for the Vikings. 14 wins, the first ever team to not win a division with 14 wins. Going on the road, potentially in LA, potentially not in LA, but they're playing the Rams, so it's going to be a tough matchup for them. Already played in the regular season this year, and the Rams won that matchup. Now, it was off a short rest. It is a little bit different of a story. So the Vikings are a team I'm not going to completely bail on here just because of a bad performance. If Sam Darnold can get back to what we saw most of the regular season from him, this Vikings team can definitely go on a run and chunk out a couple of wins in this postseason. I'm not going to call them frauds because you don't really fraud your way into 14 wins in the National Football League. So not going to abandon ship yet on my Vikings, but there are some concerns out there in a huge franchise game this coming Monday. Okay, I got the Ravens here at number 5. The Ravens have been looking good the last few weeks. Win that AFC North, secure that 3 seed overall. Potentially Lamar Jackson getting an MVP. Number 3 for him. But the real thing is here, can the Ravens get it done in the postseason? Now, they made the AFC Championship game last year, and this is a little bit different of a makeup of a team. We have Derrick Henry in the backfield running the football for them. We have a remixed offensive line that's kind of got settled in, kind of figured things out, and it's looked good. Now, Lamar's making great plays, throwing the football, running the football. Zay Flowers has been kind of hit or miss. Rashad Bateman is kind of your touchdown guy. This receiving core just continues to be kind of meh out there, but Mark Andrews is back to being an elite tier tight end after the beginning of the season that looked like, oh no, what's going on here? And the Ravens defense has really gotten some things figured out. The run defense has been excellent for them pretty much all season long, and the secondary's really gotten a lot better. So that's the big thing here. Can the Ravens play Ravens football, not just like abandon the run, throw the football 40 times and force Lamar to do that? Because I don't know if Lamar can do that in a playoff game against elite defenses. You need to find the right balance. You need to stay consistent with the run game. And you need Derrick Henry to pick up those first downs, especially when the Ravens have a lead, because they've struggled with leads in the past. This season is pretty much all or nothing for the Ravens. Can they get it done? Because if they get bounced again early, there is going to be some serious talk about Harbaugh as the head coach and Lamar Jackson as the QB. Like, Lamar's great, but is he like an MVP Alex Smith if he can't win these playoff games? But it's setting up nice for them. Get a first round game against Pittsburgh. Not the best as the division opponent, but you've kind of dominated Pittsburgh a couple of weeks ago. Then going into Buffalo, who you already blew out this year, and then can you beat the Chiefs? If you get to another AFC Championship game, I think you've answered a lot of questions here. Could this be the year for the Ravens? I think they have a shot, but it's going to be tough. The AFC is stacked at the top end. Ravens here at number 5. Okay, at number 4, I got the Eagles here. Now, there are some question marks with the Eagles heading into the postseason. They are your number 2 seed in the NFC, thanks to winning the division. Probably would have been the 3 seed, but alas. Tough matchup, though, in round one, I should say, against the Packers. And Jalen Hurts still in concussion protocol at the time of this recording. He's probably going to get out of there, it's just kind of formalities, keeping them in there as long as possible. But you want to get them out there. You want to get them practicing. You want to get your quarterback ready to go. Now, this team's going to lean on Saquon Barkley and the run game, and that's pretty much it. It's been a great run game. The offensive weapons, we haven't really seen a lot of A.J. Brown or Devonta Smith in there, and what their quarterback situation is going to look like, I'm not quite sure. If Jalen Hurts can't go, I'm going to assume he can go, but this defense can probably lead the way for them in at least the first round. Fantastic run defense. They shut teams down. The defensive line dominates games. Secondary full of rookies out there has really been a massively improved unit. Now, they've slid a little bit against the top offenses they faced this year. The Eagles defense has given up a good amount of points, so that is a little bit of a concern. You also think back to Washington a few weeks ago. That wasn't on Kenny Pickett and the offense. That was really kind of on the defense against Jalen Hurts. Now, Green Bay's limited vertically, I think, throwing the football. They kind of rely on Josh Jacobs to run the ball and establish the tempo for them, and it's really hard to run against the Eagles defense. Now, these teams did play week 1 in Brazil, so maybe there's a little bit of familiarity, but probably one of the least indicative games. Like I said about the Commanders and Buccaneers, Eagles can really make a Super Bowl run here. Probably the only realistic threat to Detroit to go into Detroit in an NFC Championship game situation, but they may not even be facing Detroit. Maybe Detroit gets upset and they're hosting in Philly, and really nobody wants to go play in that stadium with that crowd throwing batteries at people. Eagles here at number 4. Okay, I got the Bills here at number 3. Buffalo with a fantastic season, potentially your MVP in Josh Allen. And this team has really done a great job of reworking their defense, had a lot of new names out there, and they've struggled a little bit, towards the end of that season when they started playing elite tier offenses, but they're getting a little bit back into shape. A fantastic unit, getting after people. I think this is a great setup for the Buffalo Bills. They got Denver coming in. You're the 2 seed. Then you're probably going to host Baltimore. And then it all comes down to, Can you get past the Kansas City Chiefs? Because it's going to be I think Sean McDermott's probably getting fired if they lose this game, if they get bounced in the divisional round again. We've seen this before from Buffalo, but I do think this team is a little bit different. They've been the more consistent team throughout the year, and the highs of this team have been as high as anybody in the NFL. Josh Allen is playing out of his mind. You pair that with a fantastic run game with James Cook. The offensive line's really good. And the combination of these receivers is kind of a little bit like Green Bay, but I feel like they're all a little bit better. Like Khalil Shakir's been awesome this year. Amari Cooper's sucked and he's been all over the place. But if you can get anything out of Amari Cooper as a number 2 or 3 receiver, that's a huge step up. Dalton Kincaid at tight end's been really solid. And Keon Coleman, the rookie wide receiver out of Florida State, has been really coming on. He makes big catches. He's a jump ball magnet. And sometimes you just need a bailout when your quarterback's under duress running around and you just throw a 50-50 ball and a young wide receiver can go make a play like that. So I really think this is the best Bills team we've seen in a long time. I think this is realistically the best chance they have to beat Kansas City. Now they do have to go to Arrowhead. It's going to suck if they have to play the Chiefs and beat them, but this is what you get paid to do. You got to win the big games. Buffalo here at number 3. Okay, I got the Lions here at number 2. Clearly your favorite coming out of the NFC. Get the first round bye, 15-2 on the season. And the super banged up team has reinforcements on the way. David Montgomery expected to be back for the divisional round of the playoffs. They got back Alex Anzalone last week, and it majorly changed their coverages against tight ends, which this defense has struggled mightily with the injuries. The pass rush has been good. They're getting after teams. They blitz like crazy. They're physical. They're aggressive, but that shit does not get called in the postseason. This is the most flagged secondary in the NFL. And if they're not going to get flagged, they are in a great spot here to make a Super Bowl run for the first time in franchise history. Pair that with an offensive play caller, Ben Johnson, who's kind of feeling himself. Now, they do get themselves into trouble where they get a little bit too cute in certain situations. Thinking about 4th and inches against Minnesota before the half, they try and throw a 20-yard pass. Just run and pick up the first down and then bleed clock. Jared Goff, not the best game from him last week, but if you can lean on Jahmyr Gibbs in the run game, you get back David Montgomery, and you only ask Goff to make, 18 to 22 throws a game. He can make those throws. Amon-Ra St. Brown's had an elite season. Again, put him in the slot. Jamison Williams has come on. Sam Laporta's getting back in the mix. This is kind of Super Bowl or bust for Detroit, and they're not going to have to go anywhere but Ford Field. So great home field run. I'm only putting them here at number 2 because they've never done it before. They've never won the NFC. They've never made the Super Bowl. And you know what? Experience does matter in this situation. They got a taste of it, but they don't quite have the experience of, obviously, our number 1 team. Okay, obviously number 1, the Kansas City Chiefs. Say what you want. Oh, they're not as good as their record, this, that, and the other. They went 15-2 this season, and they didn't play a single starter against the Broncos. They get blown out. Maybe Patrick Mahomes should get the MVP because this Chiefs team maybe is just like all one level deep. Like there is no depth to this Kansas City team whatsoever. But first round bye, getting healthy. AFC has to go through Kansas City, another extremely tough place to play. And this team has won back-to-back Super Bowls and a third with the core unit of this group. That's just invaluable experience. You rarely see teams with this much experience going against teams with no experience and the team with no experience getting the Super Bowl. Now, it has happened before, so it's not unheard of by any stretch of the imagination. But when it comes down to it, I think you're just going to default trust that Patrick Mahomes is going to make those plays. Travis Kelce's going to find a way to get open, and Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo are going to call up the correct play call on offense and defense. Now, I am a little bit worried about the Chiefs secondary. The secondary hasn't been great down the stretch, but their defensive front is good. Chris Jones, probably the best defensive player in football when he's healthy, getting after people, stopping the run. He just wreaks havoc in the middle there. And then we need a little bit more consistency in this Chiefs run game. I don't know what happened to Isaiah Pacheco coming off the injury. Is he still hurt? Is he just not there? It's kind of not good enough. You're going to have to be able to run the football. The offensive line isn't great, but Mahomes has been lights out. The wide receiver core is starting to come along. It's a hodgepodge of guys, but they're not the worst players in the world. You got Hollywood Brown coming back. You have rookie Xavier Worthy, who might be the fastest man in football now. DeAndre Hopkins is old. He's kind of slow, but he can still catch the football, man. He's got great hands. That helps bring back Juju Smith-Schuster. there's potential for this Kansas City Chiefs team, and I just find it so hard to bet against the Chiefs when they've won back-to-back Super Bowls. They have all the experience in the world, and not only that, they have all the confidence that they are going to find a way to win every single football game. But that's going to do it for us. Our final power rankings of the 2024 season. We're still going to have tons of content covering the postseason in our run up to the Super Bowl in February. But alas, our final power rankings of the season. Let me know down in the comments below, who am I too high on? Who do you disagree with? Where do you think this playoffs is going to result in? Who's coming out of the NFC? Who's coming out of the AFC? Want to hear it from you guys. Again, if you haven't already, drop a quick like on this video, subscribe to the channel. We got daily sports content for you guys. If you want to support the channel more, sign up for a channel membership. You get all sorts of access to cool and exclusive perks, members only videos weekly out there, live streams, extra perks, emojis, badges, things to use, stuff like that. It's been a great season for you guys. I appreciate all the support out there. If you want to check out one of these playoff games in person, head on over to SeatGeek.com. Use code afterthereview for $20 off your first purchase. That's SeatGeek.com, code afterthereview for $20 off your first purchase. Again, like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.